Yo, what is going on, guys? Flashverse here, and welcome back to another video on The Flash Season 7. And this will be my review and breakdown for The Flash Season 7 Episode 6, titled The One with the 90s. And yeah, this was a very interesting episode. Obviously, from the trailers and the synopsis for the episode, we were expecting this episode to be mainly Chester focused. And yeah, it really was. But this episode was mainly split into two storylines. We obviously had the one with Cisco and Chester being stuck in the year of 1998, and they have to identify the new Force villain Steadfast, or on the show they called him Dion, and he is the user of the Still Force. But then we had the storyline with the Speed Force as well. Yeah, that ending, we need to talk about that. But also, guys, I would just like to say thank you guys so much for 16,000 subscribers. Obviously, this isn't just my award, this is a collective award, as it wouldn't have been possible without the help of you guys. So thank you guys so much for the support you guys show to the channel. But obviously, going into the episode, spoiler alert, because this is a review and breakdown after all, so there will be some major spoilers which you certainly wouldn't want to hear from me. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, then go watch the episode and come back later for this review and breakdown. But for those who are staying, be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you are aware of more Arrowverse content coming your way. Okay, so we kick off the episode with this flash forward to a day, and we have this random girl walking across the street, and she sees like this random Roman gladiator running around, and she just thinks that he's some sort of a weird cosplayer. And then right in front of her, she ends up seeing a war submarine. And then lastly, she sees a dinosaur. And yeah, that dinosaur was about to eat her. So these are pretty much anachronisms, if you want to say, as they are scattered across time in present day. And they are not in their own time period. So yeah, you could say it's an anachronism. But obviously we were expecting this to be Dion's doing. And then we end up getting a 24-hour flashback. We then head over to Star Labs, where we have Barry still in cryo sleep, and the Speed Force is mentioning that she's trying to, feed off some of her energy to strengthen up Barry, but this ends up making her a lot weaker, and she basically cannot risk going into another fight with Fuerza and Psyche, and Team Flash are basically attempting to build this device which helps them identify the Force users if they were to appear, and where exactly they would be. And Cisco and Chester want to set up this device so that they could get a heads up when a Force user was to arrive. Now they head just outside of Masonville, and that is obviously near Chester's childhood, which we will get to in a moment. But this was an Easter egg to one of Barry's favorite memories as a child as well, where he had this good memory with his parents. That was an Easter egg from season 3. But Cisco and Chester basically get hit with this massive green wave of energy, and it goes past them, so nothing ends up happening. Then I was like, huh? Because I was expecting them to go back in time, and then the fact that nothing happened for like that split second, it got me really confused. But then they started to notice their phones being not there, and the car has been missing as well, in which they discover they are trapped in some sort of a barrier, where we have Cisco take a rock and he throws it at the barrier, and we get that green wave of energy just, show up. Kind of like WandaVision with the Hex, something like that. So yeah, they are stuck. Now, while that was happening, Iris is in Star Labs, and she's basically connecting with the Speed Force, and they get to know each other a little bit more. Nora basically mentions the positive energy she was covered with when basically being revived, and Iris mentions some sort of blanket from Barry, in which Nora and Iris head over to Barry and Iris's house. Now Cisco and Chester are noticing differences, and they notice the cars being different as they're walking around, and then they see Space Jam, which is back, and they see the Blockbuster billboard as well. So Chesco, if you want to say, are finding this really cool. However, they need to get back home. So they know that they're in the 1990s, but they need to go back, regardless of how cool it is that they have time traveled. Cisco and Chester are basically noticing this temporal energy, in which a new Force user is out with time travel abilities, and they basically go on the hunt to find this person. But due to them being in the 1990s, they obviously have to blend in, and we get this really hilarious scene of them fitting in, and they just dress up in 90s attire, and yeah, they're on the hunt for the Force user, and I just thought that scene was great. But we have Chesko going around and they're basically interviewing these students or people, and they're in this high school. And not only do they try to make these future references to see if they could actually answer them, but they also bring that device which they have with them so they could detect high levels of temporal energy around them so that they know who the Force user is. And we basically have them going around checking different people, and we had this really funny part when they go into the interview with this failed rapper. Like, the person tries rapping but he's just rapping so horribly, and Cisco and Chester, they look like they want to get out, but they're using the device so that they could see if this person was actually the Force user, and they're actually vibing to this guy singing. So I thought that was pretty cool to see. Now we then end up meeting Parker, who made a couple of future references, but just like Cisco and Chester, he is also another person who is trapped in this alternate reality, if you will. And he needs to get out. And the way he's able to snap out of this reality is from Cisco's Terminator reference, I think it was. Was it Terminator or Matrix? It was one of them. But time then ends up resetting after Parker snaps out. And this green wave of energy ends up hitting Cisco and Chester all over again. But this time we reset back to that blockbuster area they were in during the start of the episode once they time traveled. And we have Cisco acting weirdly, and I was like, wait, what is going on over here? But then we find out that Cisco is at his 7-year-old self, since this is 1998. And I was like, wait a second, how did this happen with Cisco, but it did not happen with Chester? So the thing over here is, whoever has that temporal device which they're holding end up being safe, but the person who doesn't have contact with it doesn't have their memory, so they're back to their child selves. That's what I was able to understand of it. But Chester's eventually able to get Cisco to snap out of his 7-year-old self, in which he ends up going back to normal Cisco, and we then end up having this temporal device breaking, and they need to get it fixed. Now Cisco was able to notice the date, which was December 4th, and they need to head over to a shop and get their device fixed with a power converter. Now the issue over here is Chester is hesitant to go there, in which the next day we get the reveal that his dad was going to die, so that being the 5th of December. But we then head back to the Speed Force storyline with Iris and stuff, and Iris basically shows the Speed Force the blanket Barry holds onto, which Iris obviously referenced during the start of the episode before her and Nora went to the house. And Iris mentions how the Speed Force and the form she uses keeps reminding Barry of his mother, because she's wearing Nora Allen's body after all. She has her face. So yeah, that always makes Barry remember the night of her murder pretty much, in which the Speed Force is troubled by this and she feels guilty about it, and then we have her speeding away. And her lightning colors were actually pretty cool, and we do see more of her lightning colors during the next trailer for episode 7 as well, and it is pretty cool to see that actually. But we then head over back to Cisco and Chester, in which we find out that the power converter was bought by Chester's dad, and we end up getting this backstory with Chester and Chester's dad, in which Chester's dad wasn't always there for Chester, or that is what Chester thought he was doing, and that his dad didn't really care about him. And this predicament ended up being a blessing in disguise as well, where Chester is able to go to his father and he's able to see him for the last time and get answers to certain things as well. But then we end up going back to Jitters with the Speed Force and Iris, and the Speed Force is feeling guilty due to her physical embodiment looking like Barry's mother, and she's just feeling so guilty about this because this could cause pain to Barry whenever he sees her face. But Iris is comforting her, and she's saying that that is the total opposite. In fact, it could actually end up comforting Barry, so the total opposite to what the Speed Force was originally thinking. But then we head back to the time travel 1998 reality with Chester and Cisco, and we had such a phenomenal scene with Chester and his father. Chester introduces himself to his father as John Boyega, which I liked that reference. I really loved that. It's obviously a reference to the actor John Boyega, so I really liked that reference. And basically this is where Chester's dad begins to talk about his son and how everything he did was for his son, and he cared about him to a massive scale which Chester couldn't even fathom. So that was just such a fantastic scene. I absolutely loved it. This was probably my favorite scene of the episode. I really, really liked it. Chester then hugs his dad, knowing this would be the last time he would ever see him. So really phenomenal scene. Once again, I love that. But then they're able to get the temporal sensor working. Now Dion then reveals himself, and he is steadfast. Although they didn't say that he is steadfast, he still calls himself Dion, but he is the user of the still force, and he is not happy at all with what Chester and Cisco did by continuously breaking this reality, by snapping out of this reality and having the original memories. And Dion basically mentions that his football days are all ruined. He had this terrible injury during present day, so he goes back to the past since his future is not that bright, and whatever he tries to do, it just doesn't fix. And Dion releases this massive wave of energy, causing more anachronisms across Central City, and basically we have the attires changing from Team Flash members. So we had that really funny moment where Joe just walks into Star Labs all confused, like what the heck is happening, and he sees Caitlin looking different, he sees Frost looking different. I really, really loved that. But then Chester gives Dion another pep talk, and he basically is able to talk him out of doing what he was about to do. But then this ends up causing more issues, which could, further affect the future. Dion basically says that he's going to change the future to whatever he desires. So yeah, that is a troubling thing. Although Chester was able to save the day during that scene, he wasn't able to entirely stop Dion because Dion now has bigger plans. But we then have Team Flash going back to their normal selves and their normal attires, and we also have Barry waking up as well. We have Chester mentioning that Dion has no intention to harming the Speed Force, and the Speed Force was questioning how Cisco and Chester, of all people, were able to stop this being, while the Speed Force herself can't stop these godlike beings. But then we have the Still Force being officially deemed the most powerful force out of any of the ones which they mentioned, which is kind of true when you think about it, because it is time travel related and has time related stuff. So yeah, it's pretty overpowered. And we have Cisco ending up naming all the forces. So we have Sage Force, which is obviously Psych. We have the Strength Force, which is obviously Fuerza. And then we have the Still Force, which is what Dion was using. And then the Speed Force, which is obviously what Nora is using, if you want to say. Now Iris then offers the Speed Force to stay over at Barry and Iris's house. And Barry accepts. He's like, yeah, you should stay with us. But then the thing is, after Nora and Iris walk away, Barry begins to become suspicious. Like he was smiling at first, and he just wipes that smirk off his face, and he's just gone all serious. So he knows that there's something up with the Speed Force. So what is going on over here? Should we be expecting this twist where the Speed Force ends up being the main villain or something? Who knows, because that was really, really interesting. But yeah, I will be going into more detail with this during my ending explained video, which is obviously coming tomorrow. And obviously, as usual, my trailer breakdown will be coming in a couple of hours after this video is posted. But then we have Chester wanting to, make his father proud, so he continues this invention which his father was working on before. And then we end up getting a post-credit scene where Joe warns Frost about Kristen Kremer and how she wants to go after Frost. Joe advises Frost to stay low and basically not do anything, but Frost is not too bothered about that. And let's just say, yeah, Frost, you're going to get what you deserve. Your biggest fear will end up becoming a reality during episode 7 and going into episode 8 as well. But overall, once again, season 7 has delivered another strong episode. If it weren't for episode 3, this season would have been on an amazing streak. This was once again a great episode. Overall, I will give an 8 out of 10. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Tell me in the comment section down below what you guys thought about this episode. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.